Hi friends, welcome to July. I cannot believe that the month of June already passed. I feel like we all say that every month, but it's kind of true. June was a crazy busy month for me. We spent about a week of it up at my parents' cabin, and then beyond that I started a new business which kept me really busy, and I'm loving it, but it was busy. So I just have not had a chance to film, and I didn't even have a chance to really read a whole heck of a lot, although I did read one really big book, and I've got a couple other books that I'm still currently reading. So my page count was still pretty high, but I still only finished 4 books, which is great and more than the average population, but kind of measly for me. So, and actually, technically, I finished this book in July, but we're gonna throw it into June because I was so close to the end. So to start off the month, I read a book called The Dry by Jane Harper. This is a thriller that takes place in Australia during a drought, and it was a great summer thriller. It felt hot and sticky while you were reading it, and it was exciting, riveting. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was great. It reminded me a lot of the first book in Tana French's mystery series called In the Woods. This detective goes back to his hometown where something mysterious involving him as a child happened, and he is now solving a new mystery that in some ways harkens back to that old one. So in premise, it's very much like In the Woods, and I just thought it was great. I thought the writing was pretty good, and I thought the story was great. I think this is going to become a series because on Goodreads it says, you know, in the little parentheses, Erin Falk #1. So I have a feeling there will be more, and I'm really excited to see where Jane Harper takes our character Erin and the story, because I really thought it was great. The next book I finished was Liane Moriarty's The Husband's Secret, and I plowed through this book in about 2 days. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was fabulous. I don't even know how to describe what genre Liane Moriarty writes in. It's not really thriller mystery, but there are elements of that. That's not really women's fiction, but there are elements of that. I laughed out loud reading this book. I was, like I said, I was riveted to the edge of my seat. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. It made me feel the full range of emotions that one can feel while reading a book. And I'm not sure I could recommend this more highly for like a beachy, summery, unput-downable kind of read. It was just great. And oddly enough, it also took place in Australia. That was an unintentional theme this month, I guess, because 2 of the 4 books I read took place in Australia. The third book that I finished this month was The Child at the Sea. I started this book at the beginning of the month, and I read it all the way through the month, finishing it just under the wire on June 30th. This was the first book by Elizabeth Goudge that I have ever read, and I fell in utter and complete love with her writing. Even though the story itself was historical fiction, her writing felt enchanting, and there was a magical quality to it. Her characters had so much depth and really came to life in this book. It was very slow. It was very slowly paced. This book was written in 1970, and it had sort of a modern classic feel to it. It was slow moving, but it was slow moving until the very end, in which case you just didn't want to stop reading because you wanted to know the fates of your characters, and you knew it was going to be tragic because this book is based on the real-life character of Lucy Walter, who was the mistress or secret wife of Charles II in England. So it took place in the 1600s during a very tumultuous time in English royal and political history. It was captivating and beautiful, and I really loved it, and cannot wait to read more Elizabeth Goudge because I just found it so beautiful. It was profound and lovely. There's a lot of spiritual wisdom and theology sprinkled throughout because Elizabeth Goudge's father was an Anglican priest and theologian, and she took much of her thought from her father. A lot of themes about redemption and forgiveness, but also there was a lot of tragedy in this book. Anyway, I really love this, and I can't wait to read more Elizabeth Goudge. I think she's going to be a favorite author. And finally, I read a book called Every Wild Heart. I keep wanting to say Every Heart a Doorway, But as we all know, that's another very popular book series on BookTube. But anyway, Every Wild Heart by Meg Donahue, which is definitely a feel-good, heartwarming women's fiction novel. And it's been a long time since I've read something that was just straight sort of contemporary adult fiction. And I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was decent. It's not the best writing in the world, but it didn't make me cringe or anything. And the story, like I said, was very heartwarming. There were a couple elements of romance in it that made my heart beat a little faster, and that's always what I look for when I read a romance. I want my emotions to get involved. I want my heart to beat a little faster. I want to know where this romance is going to take me. And it did that. It was not heavy on the romance. It sort of came into play towards the very end, and so it wasn't overwhelmingly about that. It was more a mother-daughter story. This book is about a woman named Gail Gideon, who is based on the real-life radio personality Delilah, although her radio show in the book, Gail Gideon's radio show in the book, is not as maybe sappy. It taps into people's anger more than their sappy romantic feelings. And but she is heavily based on Delilah, and this is a story about her and her daughter. Her daughter is in an accident on a horse and gets a traumatic brain injury, and it kind of changes her personality. And this is sort of about the ramifications of that. Meanwhile, Gail Gideon is dealing with a stalker situation. The stalker situation really isn't that creepy. There are a couple moments where you're a little put on edge, but other than that, it was just almost entirely feel-good summer read. This book I found on the Modern Mrs. Darcy summer reading guide list, and I'm glad I read it. You know, probably not the best book I'll read this summer, but certainly worth my time. So these were the 4 books that I read in the month of June. I'm so excited for the month of July, and stay tuned. I meant to do the giveaway announcement, who won the giveaway, in this video, but I think it's going to have to be my next book-related video because I forgot to do it this time around, so I'm really sorry about that. But stay tuned, and happy 4th of July for those of you who live in the United States. I hope that you celebrated your Independence Day with lots of blueberries and fruit salads and grilling out and whatever else you do. I saw somewhere on social media, I think, that on the East Coast a lot of people will eat lobster on the 4th of July. Is that really a thing, or was that just one person? Because I'm really curious. Living in the Midwest, that's not something that we do on the 4th of July. That's all I have to say. I hope you guys are having a great beginning to July, and I will talk to you all later. Bye! There must be a parade going on. I'm not sure that you can hear it, but I hear a band playing the Star-Spangled Banner. It's the 4th of July while I'm filming this, so that's why I'm hearing the parade, but I have no idea where it would be happening.